Stinger transitions, they're one of those things that aren't immediately obvious to the viewer, but they add a huge amount of production value to your stream. That 1 to 2 second transition between scenes in your stream looks so much more seamless, so much more professional than things like a cut, a fade, or a luma wipe. If designed correctly, these Stinger transitions can integrate things like your branding, the color scheme that you use, your logo, and it really helps enforce that branding on your viewer without really being too distracting because it's so quick. A couple of months ago, I uploaded a video talking about the basic transitions that are included inside of streaming software like OBS and how you can use them. And the overwhelming response from you guys, the gaming careers community, was that you wanted to learn how to create your own Stinger transitions in some video editing software. So that's what we're doing today. In this video, we're going to be walking through step by step how you can create your own Stinger transition that integrates a few different colors from your brand color scheme as well as your logo, and will work with all kinds of streaming software. So it doesn't matter if you're using OBS Studio, Streamlabs OBS, or StreamElements OBS.Live, it'll work with any of those. With this knowledge, you'll be able to customize the Stinger transition to use different colors, different shapes, different directions, speeds, add your own logo, change text, all of those kind of things to really make this Stinger transition unique to your own stream. All of that coming up after a quick message from today's video sponsor. The new Stream Deck XL from Elgato offers a massive 32 customizable keys that you can use to control all the different aspects of your live stream. Get studio level control with more access to time-saving integrations directly at your fingertips. To find out more, visit the link at the top of the description. Now, a word of warning, this tutorial is going to be a little bit more complicated than usual, but I'm going to do my best to walk you through step by step so that you fully understand what's going on. Since the idea behind a Stinger transition is that it is a video that plays between two different scenes so that it seamlessly switches between the scenes with the graphic coming over the top, the idea is that the video that we're working with needs to have some layers of transparency because that's actually how you see the scenes behind it. And to be able to work with transparency in video, we need to be using some slightly more complicated video editing software. And the main choice that people use is After Effects. After Effects is part of Adobe's Creative Cloud, which is a subscription package that includes things like Photoshop, Premiere Pro, Audition, as well as obviously After Effects. Now, just because I've said subscription model, don't close down the video just yet because there is a free 7-day trial that you can get that allows you to use After Effects completely unlimited. So you can create your own Stinger transitions with me in this video. As long as you do that within the first 7 days of installing the trial, then you'll be able to render it out and use it in OBS and all those kind of things. So if you do want to create a Stinger transition with me today, use the link in the description to download After Effects with a free 7-day trial. Okay, so once you have finished downloading and installing After Effects, I know that it's a big file, so it might take you a little bit. You can open it up, start a new project, and you should arrive at a screen like this, which I know looks very, very different to any traditional video software that you might have used. But I'll do my best to walk you through step by step exactly what you need to do. The first thing you need to do is create a new composition. So just come to this new composition button, click that, and then we're going to give this a composition name. So I'm just going to call it Stinger, since that's what we are creating. And then down here we have the width and height properties. Now you want to match these to the canvas resolution of your streaming software. If you don't know what that is, it's fine, just leave it at 1920 by 1080. If you have a canvas resolution of 1440p or 720p and you know that, then you can change that here as well. Leave this at square pixels and then change your frame rate to the frame rate that you're streaming at. So if that is 30 FPS, set that to 30. If you're streaming at 60 FPS, set that to 60 because you want the actual video to be the same frame rate as what you're streaming at. And the final thing that you want to do is just change the duration of the composition that we're making. These Stinger transitions, they're best if they're really short, snappy, punchy, not that noticeable to the viewer. They obviously want to be great and increase your production value, but you don't want them to distract from the actual content that you're creating. So I'd recommend setting the duration to 2 seconds here. So I think the default is 10, so just change that to 2 seconds and then click OK to create our new composition. So what we have up here is a preview of the video that we're going to be creating, and this checkerboard style that we have, all that means is that it's a transparent layer, so there is nothing currently on top, which is exactly what we want. And what we're going to do is create some rectangles or some squares that are going to swipe across this transition, having a point in the middle where they're completely covering the screen and then leave again. So let's start just by creating our very first rectangle. All we're going to do is come up to the rectangle tool here and make sure that you've got the rectangle tool selected because it might be already set on ellipse or something like that. So select rectangle, And then just to give myself enough space, I'm going to zoom out once, so you can just use the scroll wheel to zoom out. And I'm just going to create a nice big rectangle over my layer here. And the color scheme that I'm going to be using is Gaming Career's main 3 colors, which is a red, a white, and a gray. But you can absolutely use whatever colors you want. So all you have to do is come up to this fill box, click that, enter in the hex value or search for the color that you want, however you want to do. The first color I'm going to be using is the red. So I'm just going to input that here, and then you can see we have a nice big rectangle, which is red. And obviously we're going to try and animate that from coming in from the left and out to the right. So to actually do that, we want to get off the rectangle tool, come back to the selection tool here. You can press V on your keyboard or just come up and click it here. And what we're going to be doing is moving this rectangle from the left into the right and then off screen again to the left. It looks a little bit boring if the rectangle is just straight like that, so I'm going to rotate it slightly to give it sort of a leading edge look. All we have to do that is come down to our shape layer here. This is our rectangle. Go to transform, and then you can see here we have a rotation. Just change that to whatever angle you want. I'm going to use -30 degrees, and now you see if we move this off screen and on screen, there's sort of a leading edge aspect to it. We just need to change the shape size slightly to make sure that we don't cut any corners here. So again, I'm going to zoom out by using my scroll wheel and then just drag on one of these corners and create sort of a nice big box, giving ourselves some space either side to make sure that we have enough room to work with. And now you see if we swipe that across and swipe it across again, it's going to give us the exact design that we want. So position that sort of back in the center exactly as we want to. And then what we're going to do is actually use keyframes to move this and animate it from left to right. So as I explained earlier, part of creating a stinger transition is that you need to have a point at which your screen is completely covered by a shape or a color or a logo or whatever. It needs to be completely covered with no transparency, because how OBS and other streaming software deal with it is, I'll talk it through step by step. So right now, when you start the transition, this is your current scene that is happening in the transparency. The animation then starts, and you need to have this point where there is full coverage of the screen with no transparency, because then the streaming software swaps scenes in the background, and then your animation continues, and behind here is your second scene, the scene that you're switching to. So just bear in mind that if you're creating your own stinger transition, you need to have some point within the video. It doesn't have to be the middle, but there has to be a point where the full screen is taken up by something and it's not showing any transparency, because that is when you're actually going to tell your streaming software to switch the scenes in the background. Just want to get that out of the way. So let's actually play around with this animation. So if we move our timeline across to roughly the middle, let's say the 1 second mark, this is where we're going to want our full screen coverage. So I'm going to just step back a few keyframes here and then add a keyframe for the position. So we've already got the transform box open, but if you didn't, you can just press P on your keyboard. You're going to get the position keyframe, and all we're going to do is click this stopwatch icon, and that is going to add a keyframe at that time point saying this shape needs to be here at this time. If we then drag our time all the way back to the beginning, we want to move the box across to the left. So all we have to do is drag the box across to the left, and as you start dragging, if you then press shift, it'll make sure that it doesn't go off of the y-axis, because we don't actually want any movement away from the y-axis, and then just position this off frame, just so that it's off frame completely. And you can see now if we play this back, it's really boring animation right now, but you can see it's moving between those two keyframes that we set. So we're going to play around with the animation and make this look a lot nicer with some easy ease in just a second, but let's just get the exit animation as well. So if we go back to the middle and we just step a few keyframes after the 1 second mark, and we add another keyframe there to say, you know, stay in the middle at that point, and then all the way to the end, maybe come back just a couple of keyframes and do the same. We drag it across to the right, press shift once we've started dragging to make sure it stays on the y-axis, and then make sure that we're animating so that we are off the screen completely as well. And then if we play that whole thing back, you can see, again, really boring animation at the moment, but we've got the very, very basics there, and we're going to start playing around, making this look a lot smoother now. Okay, so to animate this, make it look a little bit smoother so it's not just such a static movement of constant velocity, we're going to use something called Easy Ease. So if we take our first two keyframes and highlight them both so that they both turn blue, and then press F9 on our keyboard, that's going to apply some default Easy Ease to those keyframes, which basically just means that it's very slow around the start and around the end, and it picks up speed in the middle. So you might not be able to notice it just by looking at the video, but there is some difference now. But we can actually go and play with the values even more. So if what you do is you keep those 2 keyframes selected, make sure that they're blue, and then come up here to the graph editor, click that, and you'll probably be on a graph that looks like this. We want to move across to the speed graph, so all you do is right click, move across to edit speed graph, and you should get a window that looks like this, which is basically looking at the keyframes and the actual speed between. So you can see the speed is very low at the start, it's quickest in the middle here, and then it slows down again at the end. So all we want to do is play around with these this graph to make it just a little bit more animated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this first keyframe and really slow it down by dragging this to the right. And you can see what happens to our graph is we now have really slow as it comes in, and then it picks up a lot of pace in the middle and then slows down again at the end. So if we watch this back and compare it to the out, which is just still the static keyframes, you can see how much better that looks. It ramps in, sort of picks up pace as it goes, and we're going to do the exact same to the outro. So all we do is go out of the speed editor and we go back to the second 2 keyframes, highlight them both, hit F9, open up the graph editor again, and we're going to do the exact opposite animation. So we're going to take this right keyframe and slow it right down so we get this exact same graph on the way out. And now if we play it back, you can see that speed ramp just makes it look so much nicer in my opinion. Obviously you can do whatever you want here. If you want it to start quick and slow down or however you want, it's really worth playing around, but this looks pretty good for the first shape, and we're going to add a couple new layers now to make sure that we have 3 different colors coming across our screen. So the majority of the hard work is actually done now. All we need to do is duplicate this red rectangle, make 2 other colors, and then just change the position of them slightly so that they lag behind and the 3 colors move across together. So first thing first, it's always worth renaming your layers so you know exactly what they're called. So if you just right click on the layer name, click rename, and I'm going to call this red just so that we remember which layer is which. And then we're going to duplicate this layer by selecting it and then pressing Ctrl D. You can see we've got a second layer there which is called red 2. I'm going to rename this to my second color, which is going to be gray, obviously whichever color you want to use. And then with it selected, come up to the fill and then input the color that you actually want to use it. So I'm going to put my gray in, and if we play this back, you can see that we can't see the red anymore because the keyframes are exactly the same for these 2 layers. So the red is actually directly below this gray. Once we play around with the keyframes and just move this gray back slightly, we're going to see both the red and the gray layer. So let's do that. With the gray layer selected, press P to bring up the position keyframes again. And what we're going to do is we're going to select these first 2 keyframes, move our playhead to the second keyframe just so that we can make sure that we still have full coverage, and then we're going to drag our grey behind our red. So we're going to move it to the left just slightly so that it lags behind the red. So come up to the layer to the preview, drag the box to the left. Again, use the shift menu to make sure that you have not left the y-axis at all. Drag it behind however much you want, and then if we watch that back, you can see we have red followed by grey straight away. We haven't done the swipe out yet, but you can see it's exactly the same velocity and there's the exact same gap between them all the way through, which is why we've duplicated the layer rather than just creating a new shape. So let's do the same with the outro keyframes. Drag to select them both so they're both blue. Make sure you come across to the second keyframe, and we just want to drag this ever so slightly to the right because it wants to leave first. So click and drag, use shift to make sure we don't leave, create the same sort of gap, and then let go. Just make sure that we're still covered completely in the middle, which we are. And if we watch that back, you can see we've got 2 layers now moving across at a really nice animation speed. Okay, so let's do the exact same process again. We're going to select our grey layer, Control D to duplicate. We're going to rename this to our third color, which I'm going to call white because I'm using white. Come up to the fill box, enter in our third color. Again, you can see we've lost the grey because it's hidden behind this white because the keyframes are exactly the same since we've duplicated it. All we have to do is press P on our keyboard on the white layer. I'm just going to zoom out so that I get a lot of space. Highlight these first 2 keyframes, move the playhead to the second to make sure that we remain full coverage, and then we just drag, hold down shift, and I'm going to create a bit of a bigger gap this time, something like that, and let's just have a look how that looks as it comes in. And there you can see 3 moving in really nicely. Let's just do the outro whilst we're here. Select our second 2 keyframes and then drag our playhead across to the second one, and all we have to do is drag that out again, create the same sort of gap, hold down shift to make sure we don't leave the y-axis. And then if we watch that whole thing back, we should see we have really nice animation of the three rectangles moving across at the same velocity. So very, very happy with that. And next thing we need to do is add our logo, just so that it has something in the middle as we are transitioning between the two scenes. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to have our logo showing in this middle bit. So once the white comes past, we want to reveal our logo, and then the logo also disappears as the white comes past again. Obviously feel free to use logo, avatar, text, whatever you want to use in the middle here. I'm going to use the Gaming Careers logo, so all I need to do is come up here to the left hand side, right click, go to import file, and then I'm just going to find the image, my logo here, import that, and then drag it down from the project into the top layer. So it needs to be on top of all three of our shapes. And as you can see right now, that does work, but we have the Gaming Careers logo all the time, and we don't want it to appear as soon as our transition starts. We want it to appear as this white wipes past. So here's the complex thing. I'm going to make it super simple. You don't really need to understand why things work that way. But we need to take our white layer, duplicate it using Control D, drag it above the Gaming Careers logo. Right now you can see the Gaming Careers logo disappears with it. So what we need to do is apply an alpha map. All we have to do is select our Gaming Careers logo, make sure that we have this track matte option available. If you don't, all you have to do is hit F4, so it might look like this. Hit F4 and you should see this track matte, and then on the logo we select alpha matte and then our top layer, which is called white 2. So once we click that, you can see exactly what we wanted to happen does happen. The white layer reveals our logo, and it also disappears with our logo, which is perfect. The last thing really in terms of a video standpoint that I want to do is just animate the logo a little bit. It looks a little bit static if we watch this back with just the logo in the middle. All we need is a slight scale, I think, to make this just a little bit more appealing. So with the logo selected, press S on your keyboard to bring up the scale keyframes, and then just before it starts, around here, I'm going to set a keyframe of, say, 75%. So I click the stopwatch to create a keyframe there, and then just after it disappears around here, I'm going to create another keyframe of, let's say, 85%. And then I'm going to just highlight them both, easy ease them just to make them look a little nicer, and watch that back. And you can see we now have the logo growing ever so slightly in the middle, which I think looks really good. So one last thing that we need to do to really sell this transition, I think, is to add some sound. Those who have followed me for a while know that I love Epidemic Sound, their music library I use in all of my videos and all of my streams. They also have a really great sound effects library, so I have done my best to try and find something that sort of matches this transition. Now, you don't want it to be overpowering because you're going to be playing this transition often, but just something to sell the effect a little bit more, I've found, and I'm going to be importing into my project. So to do that, similar to my logo, I just right click up in the project, import file, find the actual audio file that I have. I think I saved it in here. Yep. I mean, if you want to find your own sound effects, there are loads of free ones available online, or if you want to check out Epidemic Sound, obviously I have a link to a free trial down in the description as well. Loads of sound effects, loads of music. But I'm going to drag this down into my layers, and if we actually open up the audio properties, we can see an actual waveform as well. I can tell that this is going to be too loud and we're going to need to turn it down, but I kind of already chose this audio track because I know that it kind of works with the animation style that I've created. So I'm just going to turn this down to sort of minus 10 dB, and if we play this back, we can see that it really nicely matches up with our animation. It's still too loud in my opinion, so I'm just going to turn this down a little bit more to minus 15. And you can see we have what I think is a really, really nice transition that we're going to be importing into our streaming software so that we can use it as a stinger transition. Now, in terms of rendering this video out to actually use it in our stream, we need to remember a couple of things. Firstly, we need the video to contain transparency, because that's actually what is required by a stinger so that your streaming software can show your scenes behind it. So we need to retain the transparency, and we also need the file size to be very small, since the streaming software is probably going to be playing this transition multiple times and it needs to be played very, very quickly. We don't want to be rendering out a massive uncompressed video file and expecting our streaming software to be able to play that really quickly without any sort of issues or lag or drop frames or anything like that. So for those two reasons, we need to use a video codec called WebM. By default, After Effects and your computer don't have this codec installed. You need to head to the website that I'll include a link to in the description as well as on screen now, and actually download the WebM codec, install it. You'll probably need to save your After Effects project and relaunch After Effects. But once you have done that, we need to head up to the composition menu here, and then add to Adobe Media Encoding Queue. If for any reason this option is grayed out, it probably just means that you don't have Adobe Media Encoder installed. Again, you can install that for free as part of your free trial, so make sure you head to the Adobe website and download the media encoder. The reason we need to use the media encoder is because that is where the codec exists, but hopefully once you've managed to sort that out, you have this new window open, which is the media encoder, and you can see up in the top right file here, we have our project ready to be rendered. Now we need to change a few of these settings to make sure that it's rendering as WebM and at the right sort of quality settings. We're going to actually change out this preset that they've already selected for us. So you can just click on AVI here, and then we change the AVI format down to WebM, which should hopefully show now that you've installed the WebM codec. On output name, we want to obviously name what this is going to be called. Stinger is a good name, it works for me, so I'm just going to click save. Obviously choose the location where you're going to save it, because we need to find it later. Make sure you have both export video and export audio checked, since we have both video and audio in this project. And then you just want to check over the video settings here, make sure that the resolution is the same, the frame rate is the same. Make sure that the codec selected is VP9, because that is the latest version and it's the best quality for the best compression. We want to make sure that the method is selected as constant quality, and here we have sort of a slider for quality. And one of the key things that we need to remember is to keep this file size small. I would recommend trying to keep this file size below 5 megabytes. And you can see down in the bottom here, we actually get an estimated file size. So as you move this up to 100, you can see our file size jumps all the way to 13 megabytes. Usually these stingers aren't particularly complicated, and you don't need to really bump the quality that much since they're so quick. So just aim for something, you know, 60, if that keeps your file size at around 5 meg. Honestly, you could slide down to 30 and 40 and you wouldn't really see much difference. So just make sure that you're keeping your file size as small as you possibly can. 2-pass encoding, you can leave that checked if you want, since it's going to be a relatively quick render anyway. And then this is the most important option. You need to make sure you're checking include alpha channel, because that is the transparency. So if you don't check that, you're going to have sort of a black video until your rectangles come in. So include the alpha channel. You might as well use maximum render quality, and then you can click OK. As soon as you're ready, you can click this little green start queue sign. It's going to render out the file. You can see a little preview down in the bottom. It shouldn't take long. 2-pass encoding means it'll take a little bit longer, but once that's rendered out, you can open up your streaming software of choice. I'm going to start with OBS, but I'll also talk through Streamlabs OBS. It's very, very similar. And then we can get this stinger actually into our scenes. Okay, so here I am in OBS, and I've just got a couple of different scenes set up, a game scene with Apex running, and then a just chatting scene, just to simulate the switch between the two. You can see right now there's a fade animation between the two scenes, and we're going to replace that with our stinger. So all you need to do is come across to the scene transitions bit here. If you don't see this dialog, then just go to View, Docs, and make sure you have scene transitions enabled. And we're going to add a new transition. So click the plus button, choose stinger, name our stinger. We can just leave it as stinger if we want, and we can see a little preview here. We want to browse to find that video file that we just had. So I saved that, I think, in a working project. Yep, there it is. And all we need to do here really is set the time transition point, or the frame transition point. Now, if you followed along with this guide, you remember that we had full coverage of the transparency at 1 second in, exactly halfway through. If you've adapted that and changed it, make sure to note down the time when you have full coverage and you actually want OBS to swap the scenes in the background. So for us, that was 1 second in, so we're going to type in 1000 milliseconds. You can do frame instead of time if you know the frame number instead. And then the only other option we want to change is this audio monitoring. I would recommend changing this to monitor and output. That just means that we're also going to hear the audio of our stinger as well as sending it out to our stream. We can click preview transition here, and it's just going to do the actual transition for us, so you can see between the two scenes, B to A or A to B. It seems to be working really, really nicely. Just as an example, if we left this set at 0 for our transition point, we're going to see the transition happen, so we're going to see A go to B and then our transition play, which isn't what we want to do. We want the transition to happen when there's full coverage, which is at 1 second in. So that's it. All we have to do is click OK, and then we can test out our transition. And it looks great to me. Works both ways as well. It's nice, quick, playing and really brings the branding out for our stream. So I'm very, very happy with that. If you are using StreamElements OBS.Live, the process is exactly the same. The layout is the same as normal OBS. But if you're using Streamlabs OBS, the process is pretty similar, but just the menu is in a different position. So it's this cogwheel above your scenes. You want to click, you want to add a transition. Again, you want to make sure that it's a stinger. You can name it stinger if you wish to. You actually need to enter the duration here. So for us, that's 2 seconds long, which is 2000 milliseconds. Browse for our video file and then set the transition point, which is halfway through, 1000 milliseconds. Change the audio monitoring again to monitor and output, and then click done. And if we test that out, we should see that our transition works perfectly. If you are new to the Gaming Careers YouTube channel or you haven't yet subscribed yet, I'd highly recommend doing so and turning that notification bell on so you never miss an upload. And I would also like to give a massive thanks to the Gaming Careers patrons who keep this channel running month by month by supporting me so I can keep creating these tutorials. So a massive thank you to them, and you can check out a few more of my videos here. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.